Hello and welcome to the GAK.co.uk Guitar Shop podcast. I am your host Mark Packham. Who is with me this evening?
Hello, my name's Matt and I'm the manager in store.
And I'm Joe and I'm here for bass related things.
Yes. Episode 50. Congratulations.
No, it's not episode 50.
Yeah, it is. This is episode 50.
I thought it was 49.
No, this is 50.
Oh, I thought I thought you planned like some big party and there was going to be fireworks and cake. And
the thing is, I've said, does anyone want to join us on the Google Hangouts? And only one person responded, so we should do it another time.
Oh, I see. No, that's a.
I think.
Are you sure it's 50?
It is 50.
I was listening to our one. I'm sure it says 48 on the one we did over the web.
No, that's 50, that's 49.
So, does that mean we've been doing it for nearly a year?
No, because we did 5 in the Gear of the Year week, and we did 4 in the NAMM week.
So we're approximately 12 weeks, 11 weeks ahead. Yeah. 11 weeks will be a year.
Yeah, so we've got...
No, 9.
That's what I said.
Yeah, good.
Everyone loves maths.
Yeah. You're in a math band. You should be good at this.
That's what you do, isn't it?
That's your time signature.
I wonder if anyone's done that. It's like really crazy techie math band. No, just someone's doing you see there was some sort of weird performance art once where someone was like doing interpretive dance to like improvised kind of ambient shoegazy stuff. I wonder if you could do a math band with someone doing live mathematical equations.
That's a great idea.
Super math.
Ooh, I like that.
See if you can get that into.
I'm gonna see if I can find a mathematician.
Well, I saw that
a mathematician. Surely.
I need Jeff Goldblum.
Well, talking of weird
K-itician, John.
Weird performances. That woman who does that band, is it Peaches?
Oh yeah.
They're she's doing a one-man version of Jesus Christ Superstar at the Brighton Dome,
and she's not even a man.
How's that going to work?
I don't know, but it sounds ridiculous.
I don't think I want to see that. Just throwing it out there. How's everyone been? All right?
Yes. Just chipper. I mean, we only did the last one on Sunday morning.
I know, it seems like only yesterday.
Only
actually a couple of days ago.
It was a few days ago.
Yeah. But yeah, good.
I miss all the silly face things that you can do on Google Hangouts. Oh, anyone who hasn't been on Google Hangouts, go on Google Hangouts. It's
just
amazing.
hang out.
You've got a soundboard. You can put things on your face that follow the motion of your face around.
If anyone I put this out last week, but we really want to do something over Google Hangouts where people. I think it'd be good for people to join us. Get in touch first. The email is the best way, podcast@gak.co.uk. But also talk to us on Twitter, Mark_random, Matt_90, and Joseph_900. I just want to hear from people who listen to the podcast. And
because we know you're out there.
Yeah,
I sold something to a lovely gentleman the other day. Sold him a Strat. He was like, "Oh, I've heard you on the podcast." I was like, "Thank you very much."
I just think it'd be cool to take some live questions and see if we can cobble together a live episode and see what we can do. So yeah, do get in touch. I think it'll be fun. Anyway, it's Musikmesse this week. We've got loads of news, and when we're recording, there's only been one day of it so far. So this probably won't be all of the news from the show. We'll have to talk about some next week. Do a little Messe wrap up. But there's been loads and loads of guitar stuff, even just in the first day. Primarily coming in through Roland and Boss.
Yeah, I think they got ahead by a day, maybe.
I think it was maybe released yesterday before the show had started. Should we have a chat about what they've done?
Yeah,
first up, the GT001. Now, GT001, as far as I can tell, is basically a sort of desktop. It's a desktop GT100, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I think as the guy from Roland explained, because obviously a lot of this stuff's new to him as well. They kind of keep it pretty under wraps. I'd imagine it's their equivalent, I suppose, almost of having a rack mount unit, so like the old GT Pro, but in a nice, handy desktop unit.
To me, it almost seems like they've gone down the road of doing, taking the functionality and the sounds from the GT100, but they've made it in a sound card.
Yeah, almost. Do you know what? It's almost like they knew that the Line 6 Pod 2 was going to be discontinued.
Yeah.
They thought, hold on, there's a hole in the market for a wicked desktop unit, and we should fill that.
I was going to say,
that.
we haven't actually talked about the Podto. I think we should do a little in memorandum section at the end of the news. We'll talk about the Podto.
How long has the Podto been going
Let's
for?
cover this in a bit, because I've got a lot of things to say about the Podto.
You love the Podto.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good idea. Because, I mean, I like multi-effects, and I like things like the ME80 and the GT100 and stuff like that, but sometimes I think, you know what, I'm just sitting in my desk chair, and I'm just sitting in front of my desk with a laptop, and it'd be wicked to just not really just find a sound, just noodle with it for a bit, and then just change it to something else and noodle with it for a bit.
I think the key thing is the USB recording.
Yeah, I mean, so many times, like for me, I'm not into like micing stuff up or anything like technical like that, so I kind of think that just, I don't know, being able to have it on desktop, USB, so it's like an audio interface, but then you can reamp it, so you can record everything dry, and then you can play the tracks through, and it sends MIDI it sends audio back and forth over USB, and you can just change the sound.
That's something a lot of companies have really been getting on, kind of this year and last year. This USB recording, the ability to reamp stuff.
Yeah.
Is it one question? Is it the full set of sounds from the GT100?
I think so. Yeah, so you can put all of the GT100 version 2 sound patches on it, because it's compatible with all those sound patches. And what's nice is it's going to be compatible with this new Boss Tone Studio thing that Jamie was talking about months ago with the DS1 and the ME8 and stuff. So you can plug it in via USB, and you can just download a load of artist sounds. And it's the first time that Boss have really kind of come into that territory, and I think that's wicked. You know, as we were saying with the Line 6 amplifier,
they're all going to be free, aren't they? The tone, library. What are they calling that tone library?
Tone Studio.
Tone Studio.
But I mean, it's, you know,
Tone Central.
Or Tone Central. I think it's nice with all those sort of things that, you know, if people get behind it, it's going to be good, because you're going to be uploading all your own sounds. There's going to be loads of other sounds to download. There's going to be a load of cool stuff to try. The forums with those sort of things will generally be pretty good. They're buzzing with loads of different sounds, and there's just loads of artist stuff as well.
I think this combined with Tone Central really makes sense, because you'll have it assumingly.
What word are you trying to say?
Know,
do you want to start
idea.
your sentence again?
I assume.
You will probably have it next to your computer, and you'll probably have it plugged in USB. So it makes sense to me that you'll just go there, grab the patches that you need, fly them in, do the recording that you need to do, and it's not like you've got to get the multi effects out of your flight case or your bag or whatever, and then plug it into the computer. This can just sit next to your computer the whole time and just act as your like studio hub almost.
Yeah, I mean, for me, so I've got a guitar rig, and I use a bit of like Ableton, and I kind of like don't mind recording in like totally dry and then kind of like messing around with, you know, the computer software as it were, but sometimes you just want like a bit of hardware to kind of tweak. It feels like you're dialing in more of an actual sound, and the annoying thing is as well with a lot of that stuff, you want to be able to kind of tweak it on the fly, and it's just easier than like trying to scroll a little mouse in and trying to like adjust the values on tiny little virtual sliders, you know. So something like that, I'd actually like, I've got a Roland interface, but I'd rather have something like this, because I'm only really ever going to record guitar, or maybe a synthesizer, which sounds cool through a guitar amp anyway. So I'd rather have one of these than the normal interface, and just use everything. Worth
mentioning that it's got it's got an XLR in as well.
It has,
And I think there's some vocal patches on there as well.
Oh, really? I think because there's obviously a new, which we'll probably say briefly, but there's a new vocal harmonizer as well from Boss. So I imagine there's some sort of crossover with that.
So this is actually a full recording hub, essentially. A full home recording hub. It's not just a guitar recording hub.
It's a sound card. That's what it is. With GT100 version 2 built in. But yeah, really impressive little unit, and not mega money.
No, £239.
Yeah,
which is less than a GT100.
Less than a GT100, about the same price as a half decent audio interface.
Yeah.
And it features, along with a lot of the new products, is all this guitar to MIDI, because that's a new thing that's been coming out. It's like direct guitar to MIDI conversion.
Yeah.
So you can, you know, play
for people who write on guitars but might not necessarily.
Well, for example,
that's
you can
really
you can load up a, you know, so for example, you just use GarageBand. I'm assuming what that means is you can play guitar and it will trigger a synth patch or a piano patch or a trumpet sound.
How's it doing that without a hex pickup though?
I don't know, but it says that's no special pickup required.
Oh wow!
Because there's another product out which I've just ordered for another customer, and there's a guitar and a bass version called the Sonos Bass to MIDI converter, and it's just an input and then just a USB output, and it converts it. And I know the other product that we'll talk about in a minute does the same thing, but I think one of the things they're trying to use it for is the same one they use it for the digital drums, which was the Friend Jam, which is you play along to a backing track and it records all your hits and stuff like that. So yeah, to be honest, I don't know the exact technical way it worked, but they say it does it, so I believe them.
Oh, cool.
That's brilliant.
I think very impressive for the money. I think there's a lot in that little box. I think that's kind of, out of all the stuff they've released, that's one of the best things.
I think when you first showed me, I was a bit like, I don't know if I see the point in that, but actually the more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, actually there's plenty of products that they've come and gone that have been similar to that, but I think this one will be proper, and all the effects technology is MDP, so all
is it?
Multi-dimensional processing, so I think guitar sounds and stuff like that are going to just sound chunkier and a little bit more dynamic.
Worth mentioning that the MDP stuff's also included in the GT100 update, which is a firmware update.
Yeah, so I think that's where they've kind of gone, because I mean it is effectively, I think, a GT100 brain without all the. But I'd imagine there's MIDI on there, so I'd imagine you could probably plug in a MIDI foot controller and then.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure we've got those details there, but there'll be more coming out as we learn a bit more about it towards the end of the show, I would imagine. Now, talking about MIDI, they've also released the GP10.
What's the GP10?
Well,
the other product I want.
Yeah. You know more about it than I do.
Well, it's basically. So we know how we all love to plug in have a hex pickup and a GR55, but a GR55 is just a bit too big. This is basically a mini version. The GP10 GK or the GP10S, so one with and without MIDI pickup included, basically.
Oh, wow.
So a 4-button, same style buttons as the ME80, so there's double rocker buttons.
Sweet. Okay, but that's a really good way of getting that into such a compact pedal, because this only has, other than the expression pedal, the two foot controllers, but really that's 4.
Yeah, exactly. That's the nice thing. So it fits all in there. I watched the only video I've seen of it so far is the official Roland one, and they said every sound that's on there has been created with the GP10. So it's a GK enabled multi-effects processor that's got synth patches, USB for the same thing, USB recording, which works the same as the GT001.
Yeah. So USB, two-way USB essentially. Yeah,
but the nice thing is as well is that if you haven't got a GK pickup or you want to split it, it will take a normal guitar input and you can still use all the effects on there. You just can't track it the same way on the synth effects.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, so as my understanding of it so far is that you've got things like alternate tunings, down tunings, all that sort of things that you can kind of switch on the fly, which you won't be able to do without the pickup, because obviously it's digital. But things like
strings.
the amp modelling and the effects you'll be able to use just by plugging a guitar straight in. So in theory, my way, because I was thinking, maybe I could use one of these and have like guitar, so you could do alternate tuning through the GK pickup, but then still have a normal guitar input and use it for the effects as well. So you can run like a stereo setup, one modelled and then one without.
Yeah, this is a totally brilliant way of making this sort of thing more affordable
and just more accessible to people.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. You've got to think they do a Mexican strap, for goodness sake, for it. Yet you've still got to invest in the full size pedal. This is exactly what this area of the market.
I think the thing is, a lot of people want guitar synthesizer. I think is a thing that's been around for a long time. People always go, maybe that's what I want to do. I want to have a guitar synthesizer. But then I do demos on GR55s and people's like minds just melt, because you're like, I don't need to do all that. I don't need it. And and you can go into the menu and you can do that. And I kind of think by shrinking it down and making it almost, it looks like I don't know, I'd imagine it's going to be slightly smaller than an ME25. It looks pretty
it's that
small.
Kind of shape, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's more square. And I reckon it's just going to be more easily accessible for everything.
Brilliant. I tell you what, do you know who I saw using the full-size version of this? I went to a gig with Luke Taft a couple of weeks ago to see St Vincent touring her new record, and she always used to play this old like Japanese lawsuit era harmony. Just this real sort of old piece of crap that she just made sound amazing because she uses so many fuzz pedals. She's now got herself a Music Man Albert Lee, and it's fitted with one of the Roland pickups, and just that she's doing.
That's quite a departure.
Yeah, it is a massive departure.
Literally the most futuristic looking guitar.
But there were things like an oboe solo that she did on the guitar. It was absolutely brilliant. It was amazing to see good application, because so many times I see reviews for this, and I know you say, a lot of people are into it, and they think maybe that's for them. Whenever I see these things, all I see is people using really unapplicable sounds that I could never find a place for in modern music.
Here's a really 80s sounding slap bass.
Exactly.
Even
when
on guitar.
Roland send their virtuoso guys down, they had one down recently. I can't remember his name.
Alex Hutchins?
No, it's the other one.
Was it
another guy? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. But incredible guitarist. Everything he did completely unapplicable to any type of music I've ever listened to.
Yeah,
and I was just what do I need this for?
Well, I think that with these things, it's all about crafting your own sound.
It's about showing off the process. But I mean,
of course.
But I see what you mean. You kind of sometimes the actual practical application gets lost. I mean, I know that from having hundreds of pedals. You go, this pedal sounds amazing, but then actually you take it into band rehearsal and you step on it and everything just flattens. You're like,
exactly. I mean, the problem was that most of the stuff that I think we were being shown at the Roland demo that I was at was stuff like that you might need if you are an absolutely flawless guitarist and you don't have a band. Yeah, those were the two prerequisites, and most people have a band, and most people aren't flawless guitarists. So it kind of, for me, limits where they're usable. But seeing St. Vincent use one so incredibly and in such an odd, kind of free, departed way, just it made me think totally differently about these things. And this is a wicked idea, just to have something more accessible.
What price are the G series, the Mexican-made Strats with this fitted?
489 or 510.
So we're saying basically for less than $1,000 you could get a decent Strat with the pickup and the unit as well.
And basically the price that we're listing at the moment is for the GP10 GK, which is the one with the pickup, just 389.
Oh wow!
So the one without the pickup's probably going to be 329, 319. I would have thought.
Yeah, maybe they're even $299. Something like that.
So I mean, sub £1,000. And actually, one thing I just noticed on here as well, because obviously it's GK and you've got the USB audio MIDI interface with multi-channel audio recordings. I think you can record in stereo, probably dry and an affected track.
Yeah.
It also allows audio recording for individual string outputs as well.
Okay.
So
I assume that when you plug this in, your DAW will show it as probably a 8-in sound card, probably the stereo left and right, and then the individual string.
And so in theory, it means that you could be. It'd be quite cool for kind of beefing stuff up without double tracking, in the fact that you could have your E string just down an octave or something like that. Just so
could you attribute additional effects isolated by the string in that case? Could you have your low 3 maybe with an accompanying octave? And
I'm not sure on this particular one, but I know on the bigger units, the GR55, you can assign patch per string. So you could, in theory, have a bass drum on your low E, and then have a bass on your A string, and then have something else on the other strings. And if this can do that, and if you're saying it can do individual string recording, then you'd be able to record all of those tracks separately off one guitar.
Yeah, that's remarkable.
It looks like a great little unit. I hadn't really, again, like you're saying about the GT001, I kind of looked at it and went, I don't really get it. I'm not really sure what they're trying to do. But when you sit and you talk about these things, instantly I can go, that would be actually a really good rig. Get one of those Strats, get that. It will record all of the MIDI out via USB, as well as your audio. And then, so if you record something in, you can use that MIDI to then trigger software in the computer. So,
I mean, for me, because I was like, I thought actually this is really handy, and I've got a good soft synth software, and I was like, but I can't play keyboards to save my life, but I like all the soft synth patches and messing around with kind of weird spatial effects. So something like that's cool, because you can just you can play normal chords, you can have those patches, and because you can record dry audio at the same time, I'd imagine you can have all the unaffected and just put your guitar thing. So I'd probably put this on a separate pedal board with maybe a couple of other effects, and then that would be my multi effects, and it would be my recording rig as well.
Cool little pedal. Cube Street EX.
What's that?
Well, from the long line of Cube amps, Roland obviously do the Microcube, which is probably our biggest selling Roland Cube, which is the little battery-powered single speaker little cube. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also the Cube GX, which is the 4-speaker version.
That was the RX.
Sorry, the RX,
which is sort of
and the bass
still
version
there. The
comes
bass
like that
one's
as well.
still there, but the guitar one,
they've got
not
some
so much.
drum patterns and stuff built in. And then I would say probably the one that you see around town with buskers most is the Cube Street.
Yeah.
Cube Street Cube.
Yeah,
I like the Cube Street. It makes it sound more.
I think that's the official
urban.
name. Cube Street.
Yeah, that sounds urban.
Yo.
Yeah.
So Cube Street, the existing one, is essentially a 3-channel, 2-speaker amp that will work either on power supply or with batteries.
Yeah.
The downside to it is, and this doesn't affect most buskers, is that it's not massively loud.
I think a lot of people get put off and go for maybe what are out there sometimes cheaper units because they're effectively like 2.5 watts per side, stereo, and you've got a 1 mic channel, an auxiliary, and a guitar channel. So a lot of people, I think Roland for the while, the only other product they've had has been the big 4-speaker PA they've done, which has had the huge battery pack in it, which to be honest for most buskers, although I did see one busker in London like lugging it around, I was like, you ain't going to carry a 4-speaker like, and to be honest, most buskers aren't going to need like that many inputs for something that size.
How about if I were to tell you about the Cube Street EX?
Tell me.
The 50-watt version of the Cube Street. It looks immense. It looks so rugged. So channel-wise, you've got 4 different channels on there. I believe two of which I think have got effects. So ideally, there's like delays and reverbs for a vocal, and then you've got the full Cosm modelling for guitar in. There's also like an auxiliary channel to run your beats in. I think there's 2 mic inputs as well. So loads of option in terms of plugging things in. But I mean, the key thing is that it's still battery powered. Still comes with the mains adapter, but it's 50 watts.
So still battery powered at 50 watts.
Yeah, and also only 8 AA batteries. Like, I've no idea how they're managing to get that amount of power out of it.
I mean, and I've got to put this out there because so many people go, but aren't the rechargeable ones better? Well, yes and no. The problem with rechargeables is you're out busking.
You don't mean rechargeable batteries. You mean
rechargeable packs.
A lithium.
Well, no, not even. I don't think even like some of them were like the lithium. But the thing is, if you go out, you forget to charge it, or you don't charge it up fully. You go out and it runs out. Yeah. You can't plug it in, you're stuck. With these ones, you can just
also
plug in a couple of extra batteries.
Those sort of amps I've always found have been much more unreliable because if you leave them without a charge in for a short amount of time, they'll never charge up again. Yeah. Whereas I think Roland's system of actually just using normal off-the-shelf batteries works really well.
You can still get rechargeable.
Well, yeah, of course, anyway. yeah. I just think this is the answer to the question that we're constantly asked, like, I was looking at a Cube Street, but it's just not loud enough, or I need to plug some more stuff in. This looks awesome.
Yeah,
I think we'll go
to save the problem with a lot of people. But I need to buy 2 because you've got 2 people who want to bust together, or you've got several singers or 2 microphones, or I think as well probably coming a lot of the side from like beatboxers and stuff like that who busk a lot more now, and they need kind of multiple inputs for like stereo, like effects and stuff like that. So.
You talk about 2 performers. You can also chain them together. So 50 watts isn't enough. There's also a dry output that allows you to connect another Cube Street EX to it. So you've got the full stereo 100 watt.
Well, that's awesome for even small venues because they actually fit on a speaker stand, don't they?
Yes,
indeed. That's quite good for outdoor venues.
Well, exactly. I think that's where they've aimed this product totally. It's like people who are busking outdoors, but either want multiple things to plug in. Like if you had a small busking band, instead of everyone taking their own amp or having multiple Cube Streets, just getting the Cube Street EX, you can plug everyone in, and you're good. And I think, I don't really know. I don't know why you'd buy anything other than a Cube Street anyway. Yeah. But if you need that extra power, Cube Street EX.
But now I don't know why you'd buy one of them when you can buy one of.
Well, I mean, they're a bit more money. They're coming in at $399, but they're a much bigger unit.
But then the thing is, I see a lot of people, acoustic players who are out busking, who spend a lot more on boutique battery-powered acoustic amps.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is going to cover that sort of range as well, really.
Totally. One last product from Boss and Roland at Musikmesse, the VE20. I guess so. The VE2 even. Yeah. We've had the VE20 before. That's been like a product they've had for a little while. They've kind of made it more slimline and brought it up to date with the new vocal harmonist. It's taking its cue from the TC stuff. You know, they've seen what TC are doing with kind of guitar triggers, harmony pedals. Sorry, they've seen what TC Electronics have done with like things like. They're called
the Harmony G.
Harmony G, that's the word I was looking for. So this is a kind of a vocal harmony pedal for guitarists.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, you're probably in a band that does more vocal harmonies than. Or you've been in a band that does more vocal harmonies than
an instrumental band.
No, you did another band before that had someone singing. Like, Packham doesn't really sing, and I definitely don't. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of system works really well, and Boss's take on it is going to be as good as any, I think. So
it looks cool.
Yeah, it's good to have some other things on the market. I mean, I think they've got some really tough competition with the voice live play stuff that TC did.
All the TC Helicon stuff.
Yeah, all the TC Helicon stuff, but especially their multi effects. I mean, I do think. That TC Helicon were maybe missing the mark slightly with their individual stomp boxes, because I don't think that's what vocalists need, especially. But yeah, anything, because I mean, for years the only option you had was the Digitech Vocal 300, and
brilliant.
My girlfriend does get these things. She's got a little one of the TC Helicon things at the moment, which seems to be pretty good. And back in the day had a Vocal 300, but yeah, you know, it's great to have other people entering that market, and I do think it's something that's
on a weird note, actually. Although I haven't tried it today in Vocal 300.
This will stop you singing weird notes. That's
I was in a band once with a guy who played saxophone, and he had a Vocal 300 for harmonies on the saxophone because it worked. Yeah, because you just put a microphone on the end, and it worked really, really well. So I'd imagine, you could probably do something similar.
Well, I mean, the idea behind this is that it's all triggered off guitar chords. So you plug the guitar in, you're playing in G major, then the harmonies are a G major.
Hopefully in G major.
Well, yeah, hopefully. Depends on how good your singer is, I guess. And the good thing about that, rather than things like the Vocal 300 in the past, where you've been locked into that key, this, when you change key on the guitar, if you do a key change, this will follow it, and you know, similar to the things we've seen from TC. I just think it's a cool little product. Nice little kind of aluminium machine chassis. It looks very classy.
How much are they? I'll tell you what they're really good for. Well, what the Harmony Singer is really good for: comedy songs. There was a secret video of me doing a song about GAK using an acoustic on one of the TC Helicon Harmony Singers, and that was a fine song.
We couldn't put that video out.
We couldn't put it up.
That's in the archive.
It is in the archive. But nonetheless, a great video.
149 quid, definitely a viable alternative to the TC Helicon stuff.
How much?
£149.
Oh.
Gets into the price
that's
right
really good. That's just really good.
Yeah.
That's like the knockout punch right at the end.
So that undercuts all of the TC Voice Live multi-effects.
Yes.
I think this is going to be the best year for Roland so far.
Well, yeah, we've already had Ira, the two new stomp boxes, all these new guitar bits. Yeah, loads and loads of new stuff.
Yeah.
Some new pianos. Yeah.
No,
we don't know about that. Right, across the show floor, Korg have shocked us all really with the new Vibe.
New Vibe.
This was the one
they've spelt new NU like new metal.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not 1999
Is it specifically
anymore.
For new metal?
Yeah, it really is.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
It's not.
It's bringing it back.
This is the one that I knew that when I came in to do the podcast today.
What person in their sort of research and development department decided that new spelled NU was the right move for 2014? I mean, before I even know what this product is, that is the worst name for anything I've ever heard. New Vibe.
Okay, well, despite the name,
what is it?
So it was the biggest surprise that I just didn't expect anything like this to come out. I mean, so we know Dunlop have done a uni-vibe pedal. Korg have gone, well, we've got the original fella who helped design the original uni-vibe design.
We don't have the name.
But we don't have the name. So what we've done is we've called it the Korg New Vibe vibrato and chorus pedal, but it looks pretty much exactly like the original uni-vibe.
So we have the same sort of thing that happened between MXR and Whirlwind.
I think I'd imagine a similar thing. I don't know the full history behind it, but I think the original Uni-Vibe, I can't remember what name they were branded under originally, but I think they were a Japanese. I think they came from like Shinai or something like that, which was a big factory that did a lot of like Japanese like pedals that were copies of others, and they became like popular in their own right. But it looks like the old big Uni-Vibes. If you've never seen one, they're like a big black and grey box.
Yeah, they're totally wicked pedals. They're such an essential pedal.
With an actual foot controller as well. So rather than built on, the foot controller's on a lead.
This looks the bomb.
So the difference is, the Uni-Vibe that MXR have done, Dunlop have done,
is the little box.
It's a single MXR size pedal with 3 controls. So there's no real time control on that. It's just you dial in the rate and it's good.
And away you go.
You know the Line 6M series does a very good Uni-Vibe as well.
I mean, it's because Dunlop used to do one in a big silver box that had a separate foot controller.
Yeah, I remember
they died out a while ago, and the Vibe is sort of a different effect in its own right, because they do chorus and vibrato, but the vibrato's got much more this like bassier swoosh to it. So they've kind of kept that. They've kind of tried to keep everything like it's a photo resistor something or other in there that kind of gives you this like more, I think it's a much more dynamic like sound altogether. So they've tried to keep it original, but then they've gone, well, we've got to do something different. So there's when I first saw the photo, I was like, they put a graphic EQ on it. That makes no sense. And then I realised the graphic EQ, and this is the mental part, allows you to create your own waveforms. So So you can have a chorus or vibrato modulation like LFO, I suppose, but you can actually change the waveform of that LFO.
But without the sort of presets of having like a super saw or a square tooth, you can.
I mean, if you can sort of make it out.
So
just
how many
from the photo
bands is the graphic?
I've got a feeling it's 10. So it's like. It's pretty mental because
10.
I mean, that
you can draw a picture with 10.
I don't understand what does the real-time controller do?
Speed, basically.
Okay.
So that kind of controls the speed, not the intensity.
Okay. So you don't use it like a wah pedal.
No, you use it like a speed. Just a speed control, basically.
Yeah. So it's the speed that it's cycling through the wave that you've created.
Most of the modern copies that don't have that react on the how hard you hit the instrument to get that speed.
The wave sliders allow users to create their own LFO waveforms designed by the developer of the original circuit. So
I mean, as a box, it looks really impressive.
It looks absolutely awesome.
It looks massive.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, it's for. I mean, I think the price is going to denote that this is for pedal heads.
Oh, and amazingly, it says here, I think what the other one didn't do is that the expression pedal for speed also is click. So you can use that as on-off, and because it runs such a long lead, you could leave it in a rack or just leave it on top of your amp, and then just have the foot controller on your board.
There we go. So that
explains why because you wouldn't have. I mean, to be honest, you know how I feel about pedal board real estate. It is an absolute mansion. It is huge.
That's not just the little Monopoly house. That's the whole street.
That's the whole board. That is mental. But it runs on batteries, which is pretty nuts, or mains. I reckon it will sound really good. However, as much as we don't like to put a downside on these things, it is expensive.
£479.99.
That is mighty expensive.
That makes it one of our most expensive
considering
stomp boxes.
Considering you could buy a Mobius for the same money and buy an expression and not even have to have an expression pedal. It's got a uni-vibe sound in it, and there is so much tailoring you can do on those sounds. You plug an expression pedal in, you can control.
It's a bit of an odd place in the market, I suppose.
It is. I think they're really going for, to be honest, people who either want kind of real classic Hendrix, I want a uni-vibe, but an original uni-vibe is going to cost you £1,000 at least if it works. Because those old units can be unreliable. And keyboard players, because those sort of things always go down well with keyboard players and stuff like that, for people who play like electric piano and Hammond and stuff like that.
I've got a feeling the market they're going after is the first one that you said, like people are Hendrix fans and they will only ever buy 2 pedals in their lifetime, like
Fuzz Face and uni-vibe.
And this has finally come out, designed by the original guy. It's like a super pricey, like really premium unit. But it's not for your everyday board.
No, it's not. But it is the first time you've been able to get one, get a reliable one ever. It's the first time you can ever get a proper one. So I suppose for that reason that the price tag is quite justified. As you say, if we compare it to things like the Mobius or any of the other uni-vibe copies that are out there, yes, it is massively expensive. But if we compare it to what actually it is, which, as you say, is one of the original ones, it's half the price.
I think it's going to sound good, and I would like one, but
we'll see.
I would struggle to spend that sort of money. I think
we'll see. We'll see when they come in. If they could be absolutely mind-blowing.
I mean, you say that now.
The thing is, I like the idea that you can change the waveform. I think that's a cool touch. Because there's some pedals out there, they've got like the weird hand controllers and stuff like that for kind of that sort of dubsteppy sort of thing. I think that's quite cool because you'll be able to like yeah, wop wop
wop wop wop. Let's talk about firstly, actually, there is one other Korg product that we should mention. Probably
this name is even better. I could not believe it when I read these. I haven't had a chance to look into any of these new products, so that you guys are educating me.
I think we actually don't have any more information other than the name.
Can I introduce it in my voice?
Well, we don't have any info, so literally just say the name and we'll move on, and we'll let the people at home make up their mind as to whether this is a good name or not.
We don't know anything about this product, but it is called the Korg Rim Pitch.
Moving on, the Line 6 Amplify FX100. Now, we talked a lot about amplifiers on the show.
And evidently that was all wasted because they've gone and released.
Well, I think there's definitely still a place for the amplifier units. If you're looking for something that is like a really, really good guitar sound, a good sounding guitar amp, plus gets all the other features like, being a Bluetooth speaker system and great for home cinema and like using...
I mean, that's what blew me away when we did the Line 6 event, was that when the guy had his iPad linked up and he was playing like The Hobbit.
Yeah, we had like a bit of Lord of the Rings.
And it was like the sub just from those speakers is just for a Bluetooth music player. I think alone, it's going to be. They're pretty good, really.
Yeah,
just for that.
And all the other benefits. It looks really good in the home. It's a really good go-to amp. You don't need to plug anything else in. However, Line 6 aren't happy with you just buying an amplifier. They're not. They want to get the people who have already got an amplifier. So, let's talk about the FX100.
So basically, an amplify without the
amplifier.
It's so weird because. So we were saying, wouldn't it be amazing if you could put up a Pink Floyd song and then but Dave Gilmour uses like 4 different pedals and you need to change. So they've sort of already thought of that, and now it's released in a foot controller. So basically, you buy the Amplify app, or you download the Amplify app. You buy the FX100, plug it into any normal amp via a jack cable. It Bluetooths to the pedal, and then it works exactly like the app does for the amp. So you can set amp patches, effects. So you don't need the amp. So if you don't want to buy the amp, you don't want the Bluetooth music player, you can just plug it into any normal amp. Right. Yes, it seems like a bit of a weird move, but I think as an effects pedal in its own right. There have been some other ones out there that have done like Bluetooth, like Zoom had the little Bluetooth one, which was quite good, and the iStomp, which there's things like that out there, and I think this one now means that you can kind of have the app, Bluetooth the app to the floor controller, but then still go out of the headphone out and play music through your stereo, so you can still jam along to backing tracks, but now you can use clicky foot pedals to change all effects on and off, which is kind of nice because that's the only downside about the amplifier.
Yeah, they haven't quite worked out on the Amplify app, on the Amplify amps yet, how it works with a foot controller. And we were talking about plugging in the shortboard and stuff, and some of the features work and some of them don't, and they haven't really figured it out
When I first
yet.
saw this, I assumed it was a dedicated floor controller for the amplifier, but it's basically the amplifier without the speakers.
Without the amp.
So a weird product. But
Definitely, a bit of a weird one, but I can see people who already have a decent quality amp that don't want to take up any more room in their house. Say you've got, let's say, a Korg Deluxe. You could come out of this into the power amp in, so the effects return, and get all the benefits of the amp modelling and all the benefits of having, the amplify system. But using the amp that you've already got at home.
Yeah.
So not necessarily a live thing in that situation, but you might find a live way of using it. I've not really seen anyone experiment with amplify live yet.
No, I think it's more of a home use tool where I think you may see something like the app, and I think if people out there listening who've been the amplifier and gone Android, I'm sure I read that these are Android supported as well.
Okay.
So
because we were unclear on that last week at the Line 6 event that we did.
We said to the guys at Line 6 you'd be stupid not to, and I think they already knew, they just didn't want to say anything. So
yeah. Last bit of Messe news. Orange have announced limited edition white Rockerverbs and Thunderbirds.
Yes. I don't know why white isn't a standard colour for them. They
look
sort of
incredible.
made it standard a few years ago.
Yeah,
for
they've done some stuff before. These look incredible. Because obviously, the other main colour in the
faceplate's white as well, so they're all white. Yeah, that's
exactly.
Cool.
And yeah, we were discussing it earlier. Like, it just kind of makes sense. They're just it's an obvious thing for them to do.
Yeah.
I have no information on numbers, unfortunately, but apparently they are limited edition. Yeah, just get one. They just look wicked.
I'm all about custom colours on anything. The colour I've been after the most is pink. But
hot pink orange stack.
Seriously.
Like
hey, don't you have a British Racing green amp head?
Yeah, I've got a green, and then I've got a red 2x12, and then I've got a blonde head. So if I've got a white cab,
dude,
what sort of flags have I got there?
What colours?
Red, blonde, maybe white, green.
Okay, well, it's sort of, if you kind of ignore the blonde a bit, you've got the Mexican flag.
Cool,
I mean, they
I'm
sort
into
of
that.
have like yellow in that little symbol in the middle.
Yeah, there we go.
Kind of Mexican.
I just need an amp with that little symbol.
I love Mexico.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's quite a weird colour combination you've gone for. You don't have any rigs that match, like the head doesn't match the cab at all.
I used to, and then I sold the head that matched the cab, but the cab is too good to get rid of.
You idiot!
But I have been after it. I have been after a PPC 112. So
why?
Because I want something to run my other amp through.
Oh, okay.
So I can run
full stereo rig.
Mm.
And a white PPC
like
might do the business.
Yeah, and maybe I just think the orange cabs are wicked. So
oh! Do you know? Speaking of orange cabs, you know what happened to me the other day when I went to play a show up in London? I turned up with my OBC 15-inch cabinet, and the bass player from one of the other bands brought along a Smart Power 410.
Okay.
That discontinued orange amp heads. So we made a super rig, but it was like
tiny,
relatively compact.
Yeah.
Because the 410 looks about the same size as the 15 with the tiny terror on top. So it was still like only chest height, but it was drawing
Monster.
like 500 watts from the tiny terror head and was just ludicrously loud.
Nice.
It was awesome.
Nice.
One sad bit of news, and this is our final news for the week.
Is this what we've got to tell everyone about Jay Cross?
Yeah, there's been a sad passing. You wonder why Jay isn't? No. There has been a sad passing, though.
Yes.
After 15 years of service, the Line 6 Podto has been discontinued.
It's heavy. It's heavy for you. You
do you know what? I took this,
love the Podto.
and I must say, as far as I'm aware, this hasn't been confirmed by Line 6 yet, but it's been going around on various forums. Line 6 Podto. When I read this had been discontinued, it actually did make me feel like sad, because it's something that kind of symbolised my first few years at the shop. Like, Line 6, so the first pod came out in 1997.
Early. That is so early for amp modelling.
Yeah, totally. And pod version 2 was released in 1999. The jump was from 16 to 32 amp models, 32 effects from 16, I think, and the ability to switch the cabinet modelling. I think it all came on the version 2.
They introduced the bass pod around that time as well.
Yeah. And I started here in 2001, so it was still like fairly new then. This was before how what happens now, where every company's releasing 200 different products every year. So like Pod 2 was fairly new when I started here, and we were still really, really hyped about amp modelling. Like no one else was really doing it. And I would say probably on a Saturday in the shop we were doing 10 or 12 Pod 2s. Like just turning them over. People couldn't believe this product existed. Like really good sounding digital modelling. Because before you'd had things like Zoom, and Boss had sort of dabbled in it on their multi-effects, but it was always like as part of a floor-based multi-effect. Pod 2 just came out of came out of nowhere. These guys...
At what point did they go, you know what, this needs to be shaped like a kidney bean?
Do you know, I forget who was telling me, or maybe it was one of the guys from Line 6, was talking about the two original inventors. They were working for another company.
Yeah, was the other company a kidney bean distributor?
Yeah, it was that, exactly that.
The only story I remember from that is how they came about with the name Line 6, because they were working for another company, but they were sort of like, I think, fairly high up in this company.
They were
their bosses, every time they phoned, they were like, oh, if such and such phone, they're higher up to this company, just tell them there's a call on Line 6. And then, they could put their products away.
They were like developing it while they were at work, essentially. And it was like, that's amazing. There's a call coming on Line 6. Squirrel all the pod stuff away and go back to our normal work.
But mental product, really, the Pod 2. Just the fact that it's probably the oldest product in the shop, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, for me, it really symbolises like those first couple of years of working here, that we were just selling. We couldn't get enough of them. And just a sad day for me, really, that Pod 2 is gone. And
I'm sorry for you.
I know.
Do you still have yours? You
No.
don't,
I had a. Did I ever have Pod 2? I had a bass pod for a little while, and I also had a Spider.
Did you buy the Micro or something?
Oh, I've got a pocket pod.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about the Pod 2 is like we forget that it all started there. Like this whole Line 6 thing. I mean, they did an amp before that wasn't particularly successful, but in terms of the company like kicking off and doing modelling properly, it all started with Pod and Pod 2, because that was the first really successful one. And then we had Flex Tones and Spider and all the stuff we've got now, and Amplify and all the other companies that have done digital modelling since then. It all kind of comes back to this one little unit that has managed to survive for 15 years in a world where all of this other stuff has come out and tried to supersede it, but they still sound good.
So when are they going? Do we know? Is it?
I don't know. Like I said,
official,
I've not read anything from Line 6 about it. But yeah, I mean, I've heard from various sources that they're going. So
get them now while they're 115 quid.
Indeed, and that's the other thing. The price has always been kept fairly low. Like, and in fact, it's probably even come down. I remember them being like 160 quid.
Yeah.
And there was, they were what, 115 quid now.
Yeah, I remember buying a bass pod like second hand, like. I mean, I'm talking like 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
For like second hand for like 90 quid.
Yeah. Just a great little unit. Sad to see it go. Should we do some staff picks?
Yes.
Why not?
Matt Knight, do you want to kick off?
Yeah. So I like things that are custom ordered. I like custom orders.
That's what we like.
It's always nice to see something unique. We saw that very nice custom order Gibson Les Paul. The
blue sunburst.
Yeah, indigo blue burst custom order one-off Les Paul, which is awesome. But we don't see many of those. But one thing that I do deal a lot with is Fender Custom Shop, and obviously along with Fender there's Jackson, and Jackson have revamped and kind of properly allowed us and allow customers to make orders on the dealer select.
We should explain the link, because to some people that won't be apparent, but Fender own Jackson.
Yeah.
And
they have done for since 1980
something.
Yeah,
sometime around then.
And they've always kind of had the custom shop about, and I think some builders have, but they've been really sporadic.
I forget the name. The guy who is like the master builder who's been building Jacksons for ages. He was basically the only guy working in it. I think they're actually in the Fender factory. The Jackson Custom Shop is in the Fender factory, but they're in their own little bit.
Yeah.
So you've got one master builder, and then you've got some team builders as well.
Yeah.
But basically, it's the same as Fender Custom Shop, but you've got all the Jackson shapes to choose from.
Sweet.
All the Jackson options, all the colour options, all the finish options, but that are more related to things on Jackson. So you can pick things like the logo size and, you know, like what you want the inlays to be, and this, which you can't really
how
do on the
sharp
Fenders.
the point of the headstock is.
Yeah, what degree you want it for. But that means that, we've made a few custom orders. I've even had a couple of customers done it already, but we've had a few come in, because to open up the account we had to order a few. So one of the best ones we've got so far, which also kind of reflects what sort of nice price are, is the USA Custom Shop SL2 HT Soloist. So Soloist body shape, reversed headstock.
I like the Soloist body shape. I think that's their best one.
I think it's nice. You know what? As soon as I started looking at the custom orders, I was like, oh, I don't really play Jackson, but maybe I want a custom order.
Dude, you should. They're totally awesome.
I mean, but the thing is, it allows me to kind of create something that maybe is not like vintage, as it were, like Stratty or something like that, something a bit more modern, but maybe something that I'm more used to playing. And it's nice because you can pick things like, you know, ebony, you know, it's got ebony frets. You've got all the obviously
Ebony frets.
Ebony frets. Sorry. So ebony fretboard, then jumbo fret wire. You know, nice neck binding. You can have headstock binding.
Compound radius.
Yeah, and obviously with those it's nice because you can have like a super flat radius as well for those sort of things.
Exactly.
And then obviously you've got a choice of so many different types of pickup configurations.
Exactly, it's a bit more open, isn't it? Because I suppose, unlike the Fender Custom Shop, you're not kind of trying to stick to a year reference.
Well, I mean, it's about, they say 4 to 6 months now. This one.
Oh no, I meant an age.
Oh,
like,
an age,
like a 50s or 60s Strat.
Yeah, I think they've gone like, so we're doing a Dinky, you know, an SL2, an SL1, an RR.
And kind of, you can go crazy on it from that. Just
colour options, like there's burst options, options on stuff like that. Like you could have a burst finish, like Randy Rhoads.
Yeah,
but not like a sunburst, but like a Strat, like vintage sunburst with like a humbucker and two singles.
Oh yeah, and worn gold hardware. Oh.
It would be cool, you know, to all the stuff like that, and you know. Just drop me an email and I'll send you the spec sheet.
Because it's quite I haven't seen this. So.
But it's nice because like you can't see from the photo, but you know you can select the Jackson logo size. So the one we've got at the moment is 80%. So it's kind of like this massive like Jackson across it. But then you can have all that inlaid like
reverse headstock, through body, lovely.
It's to me, ordering something like that appeals much more than ordering a modern Strat. Like, I think if you're going to Fender Custom Shop, you know, you want to be ordering like a 50s or 60s Strat or a 70s Strat.
Yeah. I don't see why else you'd go to Fender Custom Shop.
For me, like, you know, as much as I appreciate their good guitars, like the new custom deluxes and things down that route, I just think if I'm going for a Strat, I want like a 50s or 60s Strat. If I'm going to go for something much more modern and I want to get a bit more experimental and bring in modern features, like the Jackson stuff really appeals because, you know, you can put EMGs in there if you want. You couldn't do that on just a normal Strat. It would just be weird.
I kind of feel like this opens you up for making... I suppose a slight precursor to that sentence is... I think, for me, guitars split into two things, and it's whether you go for something classic, which looks amazing, sounds incredible, but is much, much less playable than something modern. That's why modern guitars exist, because people started trying to make things playable, and for that reason, Telly, Strats, P-basses, jazz basses will always, for me, not quite have hit that level of playability that I think a lot of modern stuff does, but they make up for it with sound and looks.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if I was going to spend the amount of money that you're going to part with on a custom shop, this gives you an option to make the most playable instrument
definitely
possible, which I think you cannot do with, with most, Fender Custom Shop.
If you ever see something that comes into the shop or something online that's kind of got like a 14-inch radius on it from like a Strat or Telly perspective, it's probably going to have like a weird quilt maple top. It's going to have like crazy gold hardware, and you'd look at it and go, that's cool, but maybe I'll go and buy like another boutique Super Strat, because that's that, you know, most people are going to go, but I want it to look like Hank Marvin's guitar or this, that and the other. So this allows you to kind of go, well, I just want something, like you say, like I want something modern, I want something like new, that I can kind of just go, crazy with. And the price on that is $18.99.
What?
The turnaround is 3 to 4 months, I reckon.
That's amazing.
I guess
that is incredible.
I guess
You can
because
have
the demand is much less than...
Yeah, but you wouldn't think it's that much less. You can have a completely custom guitar from one of the major players in like heavy metal instruments in 3 to 4 months for less than $2,000.
You know,
Yeah.
I think this opens the window for not necessarily metal or hard rock. You know, you don't have. You could have any sort of pickups in there. You could have like PAF style Gibson pickups, but in a Super Strat style body.
Do they do a single cutaway body shape, Jackson? I don't think they do.
No.
I'd love that. I'd love that, like a super modern telly style thing.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
But I mean, I just think it's nice to know that those options are out there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely. Joe Branson, what have you been playing this week?
Yes. Oh, I totally forgot I have to do a staff pick. Yes. Well, this week, not a lot. I was kind of a bit rushed for a staff pick, and I chose one sort of when I got here, and I was sort of looking around thinking, God, I haven't really had my finger on the pulse this week, and I don't really know what's in, and not a lot of stuff. I mean, as the nature of this podcast has shown, but nothing's happened in the bass world.
No, we haven't talked about anything from
nothing bass related.
I haven't heard. I mean, it's been very quiet on the actual guitar front generally. Yeah. Like it's been pedals and accessories and stuff like that. I've heard nothing about bass.
Absolutely
actually, that's a lie. There's some new Ampeg BA series stuff.
Yes.
They've redesigned them to be kickback.
We've seen that. Yeah,
we can talk about them at a later date.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. That'll be fun. Ampeg making stuff. It's nice for them.
So tell us about what you have found.
So maybe the only thing to happen in 2014 so far, certainly that's hit our shelves. So, well, no, we had all the new Gibson basses and stuff like that, and Fender had some FSR PJs and things like that, which was fun. But this is awesome. I was kind of looking because I need to get like a backup bass at the moment, and I don't have a lot of money to play with, so I was looking in the Squire room. I spoke about jazz basses last week, and I was like, maybe there's something else. Maybe I should try the PJ, or maybe the Freeman again. And I was sort of looking around at that, and in that room we've also got our acoustic basses, which I do not have the time of day for, because it's an oxymoron. It's an oxymoron. You don't need an acoustic bass. You're going to plug it in at a venue anyway. Just roll your tone off or put flat rounds on an electric and save yourself the money on an acoustic bass. Anyway, so I have never ever given them the time of day, and I turn around and I see this incredible looking and incredibly catchy named Ibanez PCBE 12MH OPN.
Wow, that is catchy.
That is.
Just call it like
off the tongue.
The Thunder Bass or something. I don't know. Just give it a name.
Well, it's absolutely brilliant. I've never seen an acoustic bass look good. I mean, the closest thing to a good-looking acoustic bass was the Warwick Alien, and having the sound hole not where the strings are is not good-looking. It's stupid. So there's been nothing ever for me in this series that's kind of caught my eye. But this was remarkable. Now, I'm not very good with acoustic body shapes, and it very usefully doesn't state the body shape on this. But it's kind of like the smaller, like parlor. Would I be right in saying parlor?
It almost looks like. From the photo, if you couldn't really see the headstock, it almost looks like a Martin.
Yeah. It's got that kind of
got
like
a really simple traditional look, and also it's mahogany, which I suppose gives it that sort of that Martin look, that dark wood,
which is nice because
unusual
acoustic
for an
bass you see are like these really bright woods, and I just look a bit plastic.
Yeah, well, they look a bit plastic. They look a bit anemic, don't they? Normally, who's going to invest good wood in an acoustic bass? As I say, it's an oxymoron, and people make them just because they feel they should have something in that market. But this is brilliant. It's another example of Ibanez just always nailing stuff. Always nailing stuff. Especially, we said this was going to be Ibanez's year. Fancy them bringing out something in a marketplace for basses that doesn't even matter and making it good. I want one of these, but I didn't even care about this
acoustic
before.
bass, Joe. I'm sorry.
What?
I can't imagine you playing
No, I know.
Not that high. I don't think it'd go that high. Although you could probably put a bit of foam in the little bit. It'd probably make a good chin rest.
Well, I need a chin rest. But yeah, these are absolutely remarkable. So they're mahogany all over. So back, sides, front, everything like that is mahogany, and it's a gorgeous like open pored mahogany. So it's just like a nice waxy finish.
It looks warm.
It
looks like it's
really,
going to be
really
rich.
Yeah, exactly. The neck's got that lovely feel, which I love about kind of when you get sort of mahogany necks on things like satin mahogany necks, you get them on things like the Gibson SG bass or things like the Ibanez SR 1200 and 1600, and it's just such a nice, comfortable, fast feel on the neck, and it has that. It really looks really premium, and I kind of saw the instrument first, and I was like, Ibanez have made a premium acoustic bass. I mean, it's acoustic electric, so you've got kind of an easy accessible. Your preamp in there with some tone controls on it. It can take an XLR in to go straight into your
cool.
PA. Yeah, very useful. It's a 32-inch scale, so medium scale for bass, which again I think is pretty useful when you've got to sort of get your arms around this big old body. But yeah, so I was thinking, I mean, look at it. It's mahogany all over. It looks incredible. I mean, it's a good-looking bass, so you would think, I mean, I would have thought 500 quid. That's kind of where I would have said.
It looks classy.
You don't get acoustic basses for a lot. Well, you do, but then, you know.
I mean, how much is a Warwick Alien? Because I think it looks better.
They're around that money, kind of 5 to 700 quid, something like that.
These are £209.
Wow.
Yeah, that. Do you know what? Actually, I picked up this bass when we went to Headstock a few weeks ago. Who are the Ibanez distributor?
Here, try out the OPA 1267194
PCBE 12MHOPN.
It sounds like you're making that up. But so this was just in the room where people were. We went up for this expo, and there was like a little room to have lunch, and it was like almost like a showcase of Ibanez and Laney stuff over the years. They had some nice pictures of artists and stuff. They just had one of these in the corner, and I sort of picked it up and was like, this is really good. Like, this feels really fun. Like, I'm really into the open pore mahogany. Like, feels really nice. And one of their guys was like, yeah, it's £209. And I was like, what? It costs us that? And he was like, no, on the shelf for the customer, £209. And that just blew me away. I can't believe that you can get an acoustic bass that good for that little money.
No,
I want one.
Yeah, exactly. For £209, I want one. I wouldn't invest much more, but in something that's that good looking,
it's
just
nice.
as something in my lounge that looks smart.
I think it's the same. It's the same thing as like the Basics. It's a product you probably wouldn't necessarily buy if it was a lot of money, but for that sort of money, you could just have one kicking around.
That's a very good point. Yeah, definitely.
Gents.
Yes.
You know how much I like punk.
Oh.
You know how much I like P90s.
Yeah.
I know both of those things. Is it going to be a Les Paul Jr.?
No.
Oh no!
My staff pick this week is the Gibson Custom Shop Limited Edition Billy Joe Armstrong ES137, a guitar that has arrived with us this week.
That is remarkable.
Last time I spoke to Gibson about it, they said, we think it's a prototype and we don't know if it will ever exist.
And you saw it hanging on the wall and it just said Billy Joe next to it.
Yeah, so the story behind this guitar is when I was at NAMM, Gibson have a kind of smaller room at NAMM. They don't go over the top with it like Fender do. Fender take up an entire show floor, almost. They have like their own level. And Gibson have a room on that level, but it's like down the end. And as far as I can tell, they don't do like events and stuff. They just have like staff there. You can try out loads of guitars. The good thing about it is it's not very busy. But they also don't really have like much of a display going on the walls. They have like loads of guitars hanging up. Some of which are just like, oh, here's a Les Paul Standard from 2014, which we already knew about well in advance. And then, like, the more I looked around the room, it was like, there's a Firebird over there with some Atari buttons on it. What is that? I need to go and look at that. And all it said on the card was like, Skunk Baxter Firebird. And that was it. And then I think it had like a bit of description about who Skunk Baxter was, and that was it. And then I asked someone on the stand, and they were like, "Oh yeah, it's the Skunk Baxter Firebird." And I was like,
"You don't know?
Oh yeah,
do you not know that?"
But then I said, like, "Okay, well, can you tell me about it?" And he went, "Yeah, I'm not really sure. Like, we've only just seen them." Seen them. Okay. And this was one of those guitars. Like, I wandered around the corner, and I couldn't really like get to this guitar because there was someone playing guitar in the way, and I was like, oh, there's a 137 there in like a cherry sunburst. I wonder what that is. And all it said on the wall next to it was just Billy Joe Armstrong 137. And post NAMM, I couldn't find any information about it. Couldn't find any videos. No one had done any content. Like, no one had it listed. And I spoke to Gibson, and they were like, yeah, it was a prototype. Like, we're not really sure. Like, we might do them, might not. Really not really sure. And that's kind of a weird thing to have at a show, you know. And
It's a guitar we might make. We might not. I don't know.
And then I sort of forgot about it, and now it's just arrived. Like, I assumed that it wasn't going to happen, or it was going to be, like, sometimes there's like American exclusives that never make it over here. And then I just got an email today saying, oh yeah, they're in stock. Yeah, they're here. Here's some photos. We've got one downstairs from the office. It's just in the office. It's in the warehouse. So
they're all cherry sunburst then?
They're all cherry sunburst. No indicator on numbers. Like, they're saying it's limited edition, and I would imagine on these, because of the way it's all come about, that they are very limited edition.
I would imagine same run as the Trini Lopez. I would have thought 250. 500.
So we'll probably get 2 or 3. I think we've got 2 in stock now.
I think our allocation was 2. I think most stores would be
more
about the same.
More importantly than any of this, what is the lining of the hard case?
Well, I don't know, because I've not even had time to go and open one up yet. I literally found out about this as I was leaving the office to come here to do the podcast. So
I asked that because his previous 2 models came with leopard
print lining. I assume it's going to be the same. It just says Memphis hard case on the spec. So I am picking this as a staff pick, even though I haven't played it yet. But I think
it seems exciting.
Well, they will probably go before we do a podcast. So what is it? How many?
Is it 2 P90s then?
2 P90s. So he's been playing these guitars on some of the older material on Green Day tours, which is weird. He did actually use a 137 around quite a lot on the Nimrod tour.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, on the tour. Yeah.
And also on the album, songs like Redundant and stuff like that. So he really started getting into P90s and then carried that over into Warning, but switched to Les Paul Juniors. And I think he's gone back to this for a lot of the stuff off the new trilogy albums. So spec wise, it is 2 P90s, hollow body, but with a centre block down the middle. It's a pretty standard fare for a 137, but I think it's the only one they're doing at the moment, isn't it? There's no other 137 available.
And I would say it's collectible of the future.
Well, definitely. I mean, we've had this conversation. We had this conversation in store the other day about the Billy Joe stuff,
the double cuts. Yeah. So I think if you get one, they will go up in value.
So those double cuts that were retailing at $899, the last Billy Joe signature, now go for sort of £1,800 on eBay.
How much is this one?
So this one's $2,399. So it is a bit more, but it's sort of in line with the kind of
the rest of the hollow body.
Yeah, the hollow body stuff. So I cannot wait to get my hands on one of these and give it a go. I mean, from the normal hollow body stuff they do, I know the playability is going to be good. I know that the P90s are going to be good. Just a really cool thing to get the Billy Joe.
It's just so funny how they kind of just went, hey, hello.
Yeah, and that's why I had to pick it, because I think they'll be gone before next week. So if you are interested in that, if you're interested in Billy Joe, seriously do check out this guitar, because they won't hang around long. Should we do some questions?
Let us.
As always, questions@gak.co.uk. We've had some via email this week. It's a long one. Bear with me.
Can I do it in my voice?
No. This is Mark on email. He says,
"Hey guys."
I'll do it. Just to save the listeners' ears.
Love the podcast.
Hey guys, love the podcast. I know that the question of which is better, Strat or Les Paul, will never be answered, but is there a trend towards Fender these days? I've been saying for years, and I finally have the money to make a purchase. Trying to decide between a custom shop Strat, Tele, or Les Paul Standard. I watch a lot of YouTube videos that show different pedals, and they all seem to be using guitars with single coil pickups. I don't want my kids to say 10 years from now, you could have bought a Tele, but you bought a Les Paul, or vice versa. I'd love to know your thoughts on which is cooler, Fender or Gibson.
It's a tough one.
Gibson or Fender?
The thing is, I don't think I could rightly say one was better than the other.
They're sort of riding the mantle of guitars together, aren't they? For different reasons.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't own a Les Paul. And
Have you ever?
No. And I think the only reason
quite high pitched then.
I think the only reason I don't own one now is that I just haven't found the one that I've picked up and gone, I have to buy this guitar.
What have you owned more of? Teles?
I've had
Strats?
2 Teles and 3 Strats, and I still own 4 Teles and 3 Strats, and I've got a Tele and a Strat now, and I've got some others.
Mark,
But-
surely you're going to fight the Gibson corner.
I am not going to fight any corner. I will tell you for why. I think neither of them is a bad choice these days. I think that we are now far enough into the lifespan of the electric guitar that we know what the classic designs are. Strat, Tele, Les Paul SG, and things like Firebird slightly on the periphery.
Well, I think those 4.
Yeah,
that's where it is.
Yeah, I think that the time that those went out of fashion, the 80s basically, when people started buying pointy headstock, things that are now massively uncool, and we look at things like that and go, why did you buy that when there was still Strats available? I think it hadn't quite been established enough. Like, people just wanted better stuff, and at the time Strats and Les Pauls were kind of seen as a bit old hat, and people wanted things like Floyd Rose trems, they wanted high output pickups. I think if you go for pretty much anything from the standard Fender or Gibson line now, you're going to be on safe ground.
Yeah, I agree.
If you go for a nice Strat, or you go for a nice Tele, or you go for a nice Les Paul, or go for a nice SG, that's still going to be a wicked guitar 20 years down the line, which wasn't the thinking, like in the late 70s, 80s. It was, okay, these, like a Strat, a Les Paul, okay, well, we're done with that now because someone's invented the Floyd Rose. And I'm not saying that guitar design is kind of stagnating, but I think that we kind of know what works much better now than we did in, say, the late 70s or 80s.
No, I was speaking to Lewis Porter about this.
Our Fender expert.
Yeah, God, I wish you hadn't introduced him as that.
Oh, sorry.
For what I'm about to say.
Well, people don't know who he is.
No, yeah, it's fine. He'll have left the company anyway by the time this podcast
Yes,
is
he's
out,
off.
because it's his leaving due this weekend. But I was speaking to him about this because he's moving away to Canada, and he was deciding what guitar to take with him, as he has, one of everything, or can potentially. And he is taking a Les Paul because, as he argued, it's the only thing that can do everything. And he argued that over the Strat and the Tele, that there are genres that the Strat will be limited. I mean, everyone knows that. I think the Strat's limited in most genres, but
you'll struggle to do a metal band with a Strat as it is.
Yes.
Single coils won't do death metal. They're not powerful enough.
But I don't think you even have to pick genres as obscure as that. But yes, certainly heavier stuff, the Strats will fall down because they're just so spanky.
Yeah.
But and then Teles as well. There are things that it won't do as well.
Yeah.
But whereas the Les Paul is just such an applicable guitar across the board that he, as a session musician who would play in virtually any style of music, he's taken that.
I think if you're coming in at that point of view, that's right. I think you'll get away with more using a Les Paul. I don't think it's better suited to, like,
I agree.
say, like
there are
funk or country, like get a Tele, if you're just going to do that. If you want something that will do everything, then maybe a Les Paul. But ultimately, what it comes down to is, like, come into the shop if you can, try a load of stuff. Come in with a budget in mind. Ask one of us what is around, what's available. Say that you want to look at Strats, Teles, Les Pauls, SGs, and find the one that fits you. And if you're thinking about it as a, he's saying that he's been saving up for a long time. Mm-hmm. Don't think about what's going to be cool or collectible 20 years down the line. Just get a guitar that you want to play all the time.
Yeah, decide what sort of player you're going to be, whether you're going to be a Les Paul player or a Tele player.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. You make the basis on the sound. You don't go, oh, I've heard all these wicked videos, custom shop Strats. You might play one and go, no, that doesn't sound very good, but everyone else has got one, so or not everyone has got one, but that's the sound I've heard. So it's just you just pick it up, and I think if you've never made, I would say that I've bought a lot of like mid-price guitars and cheap guitars, and when you spend that sort of money, when you hold that many notes in your hand and you're like, right, I'm going to spend like £2,500, you really feel the connection between the instrument, and everyone feels so much different, and you kind of just find that one that fits. It's like, I agree. That's that. So buy all three.
Let's do a one-word answer for it out of the 4 that we've named.
I think it's dangerous because
it's a personal preference.
Yeah, but I don't want to put Mark off buying one to another. I mean, if it was me, if someone said there's only one guitar out of the classic shapes, well, I mean, I don't even own one, but I would buy a telly. I own a Les Paul Junior.
That night,
I would say telly.
I would as well.
Yeah,
But guitars. Bye Baja.
but then all three of us, we live in Brighton, and there isn't a guitarist in Brighton that doesn't play a telly. So
yeah, well, I mean, I don't own one. I don't
blinded.
own a telly. I've got a Les Paul Junior because it's a guitar that I bought a long time ago, and I've got kind of an emotional connection to it. But if I had, let's say £2,000 or £2,500 to spend, I'd buy a custom shop telly.
Right.
There we go. So, Mark, I hope that's gone some way to answering it. I mean, in a way, it's kind of not answered your question because neither of them are cooler. I don't think you should buy a guitar based on what you're going to pass on to your kids or what you think is going to be cool in 20 years' time. Certainly, don't buy a new guitar thinking that it's going to appreciate massively in value or try and game the system that way. It just doesn't work. Just buy a guitar that you want to play every day. That's the key to it. Just buy a really nice guitar that you like. We did have one more request this week from Facebook. I believe it was Mick, who wanted us to talk about the 2014 Fender Gibson lines, because we've been talking a lot about pedals recently, and I think we do need to have a bit of a catch-up now the dust has settled on Fender and Gibson this year, because Fender have released a lot of new stuff that we haven't talked about. Gibson we've talked about quite a lot, but it'd be good now that we've played some of the models to get a bit of a kind of catch up now that stuff's actually in stock. But we've been running super long tonight, so I think we should do that next week.
Yeah, because what I was going to say is with the Fender range, a lot of the ones that you've seen at NAMM, like the Strat Pluses with the Deluxe, with the personality cards and that, still aren't here.
Yeah.
So
that's, I mean,
gotta love NAMM.
But by way of a kind of explanation, really, that we haven't talked a lot about new guitar stuff is because we're waiting for loads of it still to come in, even though it was announced 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But the Gibson stuff's here. We can do a reasonable kind of overview of what we've played and what we like and what we don't like. And we'll go some way to doing the Fender stuff next week as well.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks very much for your questions. Thanks for getting in touch. If you've got any questions, do email them, podcast@gak.co.uk, or you can get us on Twitter @gak_co_UK, or on Facebook, facebook.com/GAK Music, or you can speak to me personally, even on Twitter @Mark_random. I want to hear. What do I want to hear about this week? I want to hear about your favourite telly player. Tell me who your favourite telly player is. Mine is Steve Cropper, but I'm willing to be dissuaded
Mine's
from
Jay
that.
Cross.
No, Jay Cross is the worst.
Jay Cross can't play guitar.
Yeah. Matt Knight, how can people get in touch with you?
You can email me in the store at matt.knight@gak.co.uk, and let's talk custom orders, custom order Jacksons if you just want to see the spec sheet, because it's just fun just going through and going, yeah, imagine that. But then you can get me on Twitter, Matt_Knights, that's Knight with SIE on the end, and I'm gonna let's talk about the new vibe. Let's talk all about the new vibe.
Talk about new vibe and new metal.
Yeah, let's start a new vibe, new metal band.
That's a great idea.
Joe Branton, where can people get in touch with you?
You can email me on joe.branton@gak.co.uk, or you can find me on Twitter @Joseph_900. This week, two things. Firstly, I need your help. I have to play guitar for a wedding band. Yeah, okay, for the first lesbian wedding in Brighton on the first day that it is legalised.
Wow, that's a big occasion.
That's a big occasion.
That is a big occasion.
And my two friends who are getting married, they've selected from their friends who they want in the wedding band and haven't picked a guitarist because they don't really know anything about music. They're massive Pink fans, and I have 2 weeks to learn a 2-hour back catalogue of
Pink tunes.
songs. Well, I assume I can learn other stuff as well, but you have to bear in mind that I can play guitar, but
that's a big
I can't play guitar.
I want to come along just to see you struggle.
Yeah, you should.
Sweat.
And secondly, the second thing is, if you want to talk about guitars, really into airbrush finishes at the moment, and I mean like airbrush finishes on guitars of naked women on motorbikes. That really sort of 80s metal sort of thing, or like pirate ships.
Best examples of that would be good.
Yeah, good examples of that. I know Jackson used to have an awesome airbrushing custom shop sort of thing, and I need people to show me places I can get it done. Great examples of it, because I'm going Okay.
For more of this nonsense, do join us next week. We'll be talking 2014 Fender and Gibson. Thanks for sticking with us this week and every week. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Ready. 3, 2, 1. Hello.